Well, get ready, folks. The Biden tax hike is ready to come. So if you are a wealthy American, you better buckle your seatbelts. We knew that this was coming. And by the way, Wall Street was planning for this. Even during when he won the primary and he was now the candidate, Wall Street was saying, yeah, we're fine. We're fine with raising taxes. It's going to be okay. And the market settled again. So it really doesn't matter who's president. Look, we're not going back to 70% tax rates like we had in the 1960s or 1950s. Come on. No, this is easy street for these billionaires. President Joe Biden is planning his first major federal tax hike since 1993. And this is all to help pay for the long-term economic program that's designed as a follow-up to the pandemic relief bill. Of course, we talked about the infrastructure package. A number of people who are familiar with these negotiations are speaking to reporters over the past 24 hours. So this massive infrastructure package, which is coming very soon, is going to be, it could be upwards of $4 trillion. The question, of course, from Republicans will be, how do we pay for it? Which you know how I feel about that. Republicans are so quick to pass massive defense bills that line the pockets of defense contractors. And how are we going to pay for it? We don't know. It doesn't matter because we're donating money to our rich friends. Doesn't matter. The White House is expected to propose a suite of tax increases. And we'll get to that news in a moment. We'll go through each different strategy from President Biden and lay this all out for you in today's video. But first, we got to hear from our sponsor. Today's episode is brought to you by Policy Genius. Thank you to Policy Genius for sponsoring our episode. You know, a few weeks ago, for anybody who's watched my show for any length of time, you know that my father passed away just a few weeks ago, and it was a really difficult time. And one of the things that I think was really important to my dad was making sure that there was some sort of life insurance in place, because the last thing you want to do is, after you worked so hard and you want to be able to provide for your family, that you pass on and you don't have something in place to take care of your family. And the reason Policy Genius is so great is that you're able to go to this marketplace. They're not an insurance company, and they're able to find you amazing quotes from different insurance companies and save you a boatload of money. I want to show you their website. It's super simple to use, and they're fantastic. They're able to shop around and get you the best quotes in a matter of time. You could save $1,300 or more per year by using Policy Genius to compare life insurance policies. You can save 50% or more on life insurance by comparing quotes with Policy Genius. You'll get advice from unbiased Policy Genius experts, and you'll get top quotes from companies in minutes. You can apply online and compare your quotes all in one place. Here's what I want you to do. I want you to check out Policy Genius today. We've made it super simple. We built a URL just for you. Visit policygenius.com/morninginvest to shop the market and start saving today. Our thanks to supporting Morning Invest, and much love to all of you for your condolences over the past few weeks. I really, really appreciate that. So make sure you've got life insurance in place. Our thanks to Policy Genius. All right, now on to the news. So the White House is expected to propose a number of tax increases. So grab your pencil, paper, and let's go through what these 2020 campaign proposals could actually be. So a lot of these are very similar to what he rolled out on the campaign trail. This is not a surprise to anyone who's been following Team Biden for any length of time. Now, according to 4 people familiar with these discussions, it's going to be very, very similar to the things we already heard about multiple times. It's even on their website, the Biden-Harris website. So again, this shouldn't be a shock to anybody. I spent some time this afternoon on the Biden-Harris website, and they're all right there. So these tax hikes include, in any broader infrastructure and jobs package, are likely to include repealing huge portions of President Donald Trump's 2017 tax law. Of course, that, if you'll remember, was passed through the reconciliation process. The very process that Republicans are decrying now that Democrats passed their $1.9 trillion stimulus package. So just as a refresher, Donald Trump's 2017 tax law benefited mostly corporations and wealthy individuals, as well as it will make other changes to make the tax code more progressive. So I want to see more details about exactly how progressive Joe Biden's going to be with this tax plan. But these are people speaking off the record right now. They can't go into too much detail as to what's in this thing. But there are a few proposals that are currently planned or are under consideration right now by the Biden White House, according to people who are who've asked not to be named, speaking with Punchbowl News and others. Right now, the number one is going to be raising the corporate tax rate to 28% from 21%. Now, if you're sitting there saying, oh my gosh, that's a huge jump. Well, it's certainly lower than where it was. Okay? It's certainly lower than where it was under Obama. Under Obama, it was still high, but that was at the level that it had been for years. So this was not a move by President Obama. Raising the corporate tax rate to 28%. Let's just give some historical perspective. If you're wondering why the rich are so incredibly rich, the 1950s, the tax rate was 70%. 1980, 47%. And today, the wealthy are paying 23%. Individual wealth. So when you look at the corporate tax rate going up to 28%, how do you feel about it? As this tweet says, the rest of us are paying the same since 1950. Who paid for those tax cuts? The poor and the middle class. That's wealth redistribution. In other words, legalized theft. So before you start crying for all of these corporations, which are essentially paying zero in taxes because they offshore so many things, run it through a subsidiary company or set up another headquarters in Ireland so they get to pay $0 in taxes because the tax rate in Ireland is zero. So many ways around paying these taxes. But what about you? Do you have so many loopholes that you get to experience? Drop me a comment below. I'd love to hear if you're able to skirt these tax laws because you're so wealthy. So that's one big thing, would be rolling back the corporate tax rate. The second thing would be paring back tax preferences for the so-called pass-through businesses, such as limited liability companies or partnerships. Now, this could be really interesting. We're going to see how this could affect real estate investors. I'm personally a real estate investor, so I'm curious how this will affect me. But I am absolutely 100% for raising taxes on the wealthy, but also closing loopholes. I pay my fair share in taxes. I pay a boatload in taxes. I don't skirt the law. I don't set up a company in offshore in Ireland. But how will these limited liability companies or partnerships be affected? We're going to see about that in the next few days as this is rolled out. He'll also be raising the income tax rate on individuals earning more than $400,000 a year. Which finally, yes, people making more than $400,000 a year should have an income tax hike that's commensurate with the rest of the world. Why are our poor and middle class in the United States living on streets, paying boatloads of money for for pharmaceutical care, don't have health insurance? You see, in other industrialized countries, these taxes go to actually pay for infrastructure that take care of human beings. Remarkable, I know. One other big piece of this, according to these reports, is that it would expand the estate tax to go after more individuals. We will also see a higher capital gains tax rate for individuals earning at least $1 million annually. Okay, this is important. A higher capital gains tax for individuals earning at least $1 million annually. Biden on the campaign trail proposed applying income tax rates, which would be higher. So this corporate tax rate hike is going to be impressive because the idea that when you're paying capital gains taxes, it's at a lower proportion. It's at a lower level than what a person who has a W-2 paycheck would pay. So increasing these capital gains taxes, that's going to hit Wall Street anytime someone sells a stock. But you know what? It doesn't seem to matter. Wall Street seems to be fine with all of it, to be honest with you, because today we saw stimulus starting to hit people's pockets. And guess what? People were starting to invest. Jen Psaki today during a White House press conference says that we're not going to tell people how to spend their money. Spend it how you like. $1,400 checks hitting your account. Many people taking to Wall Street to invest. Buying crypto, buying stocks. But most people were spending it on utility bills, back rent, and food. They weren't going to Target and buying televisions. They were being smart with this money, paying off debt that they had because of the pandemic, and perhaps even investing it. That's why Goldman Sachs, one of the reasons why Goldman Sachs is over the moon, they predict an 8% growth this year. They recalibrated their forecast for the year. They see by the end of the year or into 2023, 2022, at an unemployment rate of only 3.5%. These numbers are off the charts. Just take a look at what their note says, their research note. We have raised our GDP forecast to reflect the latest fiscal policy news and now expect 8% growth in 2021 and an unemployment rate of 4%. That's the lowest among consensus forecasts. Look at that. Falls to 3.5% and 3.2% in 2023. So just like that Goldman forecast gives Democrats hope, this Bloomberg story will also perk up Republicans' ears, because basically what they're saying is for the next 20 months, is that Democrats sought tax hikes. That's what's going to happen, and it will blow up any chance of a bipartisan deal on infrastructure, since Republicans will never agree to any tax hike, especially in the House of Representatives, when they believe they will win in 2022. Moderate and centrist Democrats whose seats are at risk won't likely support it either. They might not support any kind of tax hike if they're going to be running in 2022. So that could help Republicans. So these Democrats, we're going to see how strong are some of these Democrats. We're going to keep our eye on them. Who's running in 2022, and will they support tax hikes? And with these super tight margins right now, this might be a hard sell. But my point is that you probably don't even have to do this. But the tax hikes that I support are like Elizabeth Warren's wealth tax, the super wealth tax, that goes after those that have over $50 million in assets and who aren't even worrying about income taxes because they're not making normal paychecks. They're making money off of their investments. They're selling investments and through capital gains and estate investments and all of these things. And they have money offshore. They have money set up in Ireland. They have money set up in the Cayman Islands. And they're not paying the types of taxes that you are. In many cases, they're paying zero. I support that kind of a tax. This super wealth tax would raise over $3 trillion and would pay nearly for all of this infrastructure. That's one way to do it. Another way that we don't even have to really raise taxes at all is to recalibrate where we're spending money in defense. Reposition that money away from lining the pockets of defense contractors, change our priorities. We would be able to eliminate trillions of dollars of fat and be able to pay for this. If you could sell that to the American people, it's high time that we have a president. This president is going out speaking. He's going to be traveling, promoting the American Recovery Act, talking about how important it is, the future of this country, the investment, all of that, vaccine distribution, etc. But to be able to talk about how we need to be able to tighten our belt and pull back on all of this erroneous defense spending and all of this money that we're wasting on foreign wars and reposition that money here at home. I think Americans would buy into that. Actually, I bet they would in a large way, because that's very much what President Trump was running on, this idea of ending foreign wars. Of course, then he also expanded the defense budget by 20%. So maybe not the same exact thing. But if we look at all these industrialized nations, the income inequality in this country compared to all other industrialized nations is the highest among most high-income countries. 0 indicates a perfect equality, and 1 indicates total inequality. So we are as close to inequality as any industrialized nation. By the way, folks, look who's at the bottom. Yep. And look who's right next to it, Finland and Norway. Yeah, once again, all those Scandinavian countries that take care of their people. Shocking, isn't it? So, folks, this tax hike is coming. Get ready for it. Now, it might not be as large as President Biden wants, especially if he's got moderate Democrats who are running for re-election in 2022. That's where my eyeballs will be, to see how those guys vote and how much sway they will have. Will the progressives win, or will the weak-kneed moderates win? Weak-kneed moderates have been winning a lot lately. Who will win this time on a tax hike? Drop me a comment below and let me know. Do you want to see higher taxes on the wealthy in order to pay for programs that should be taking care of Americans? Let me know in the chat below, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. We'll see you next time, everyone.